It's never too early to talk football. After all, spring ball is just a little bit away. So, on today's episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast, we're going to talk about how the individual members of the FlyVille23 class will perform next season for the Cardinals. With that being said, let's get right on into the show.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. As always, want to say thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder that the show is free on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team every day. On today's episode of the show, wanted to go into a little bit of an interesting hypothetical and talk about how the individual members of the FlyVille23 class will perform next season. We'll begin by discussing which players are in line to receive the most immediate playing time. Then in the final two segments, we'll break it down offensively and defensively, going prospect by prospect, talking about what the expectations should be for each player in year one in 2023. So we'll begin with the two players. We'll limit it to two. The two players that I believe from the FlyVille23 class are in line for the most playing time this upcoming fall. But first, welcome back. I do want to say, I appreciate your all's patience. I know that the programming schedule has been very, very inconvenient. There weren't any episodes over the past week, so I do apologize for the lack of activity. But we're back. I will be gone at the end of this upcoming week, but we're going to do our best to get a good amount of episodes in before that. So let's get into the show. The two prospects in the FlyVille23 class that, in my opinion, are going to see the most significant playing time this upcoming fall: tight end Jamari Johnson and linebacker Stanquan Clark. A couple things to focus on. Number one, there are 7 early enrollees. Those 7 are Adonijah Green, Madden Sanker, Pierce Clarkson, Stanquan Clark, Luke Burgess, William Fowles, and Kataris Hicks. The other 8 high school prospects will be on campus after the spring semester. So just a note of there, the Cardinals finished with the 31st best class in the country. Granted, there were only 18 commits, so honestly one of the highest, if not the highest rated class by prospect ranking in program history. So when you look at who's in line for the most playing time right away as a freshman, I think that a couple things need to be focused on. Number one, you have to look at context. You can't just say, well, we're going to go with the 2 most talented guys or the 2 highest rated players or the 2 players with the highest ceilings, because in all reality, it's more complex than that. There's more to focus on. Playing time is going to be something to look at. What does the depth chart look like overall for the Cardinals? If you go with the highest rated guys, it would be, according to 24/7 Sports, Adonijah Green and Madden Sanker. Both of those guys could be playing behind some players right away. So that's something to focus on. I think that for Jamari Johnson, for Stanquan Clark, both of these players are very, very talented, obviously, but they also play in a position that it's a lot of confusion right now. There's a lack of clarity. There's not a verbatim depth chart. Now, granted, there's probably not going to be one for any of the positions out there, but when you look at the tight end and linebacker positions for the Cardinals, you're looking and saying, well, who's going to step up? Who's going to, fit into that mold? Who's going to, rise to starting level those are the main questions. I think for Jamari Johnson, it's pretty simple. I think that I've gone on record multiple times on this show, and I've said that Jamari Johnson has the highest ceiling in this class. I believe it. Playing multiple positions in the California area in high school ball. Jamari Johnson, 6'5" or 6'4", 6'5", 270-pound athlete according to 24/7 Sports. Saw a big ratings jump in the composite as a top 350 player in the top 24/7. He's a top 200, I believe. But a guy that played wide receiver at the high school level, played quarterback at times, but played tight end also, projects as a tight end at the next level. When you look at where Louisville's sitting tight end wise, you lose Marshawn Ford. You've lost players to the portal. Christian Peterson. You've had players that are no longer on the team. So right now, and then you also have players to graduation, so on and so forth. The tight end room is one to where you're going to need to see guys step up. I think Jamari Johnson is obviously, going to come onto campus at the end of the spring semester. So, saying that he's in line for a lot of playing time right away could be seen as a little bit premature. Could be seen as a little bit, biased in a sense, But I do think that he is extremely talented. You see freshmen all over the country that are, put into starting positions or, highly significant positions right away, and they're forced to produce. I think Jamari Johnson could rise into that mix. Now, granted, what's noted is you have to understand that things can change. Louisville, it was mentioned, has like 7 scholarships remaining to address ahead of next season. There's going to be a wave of players that transfer out after spring ball. So will Louisville look to add a transfer portal tight end? They could. And if they do, that may change this episode. They may change this first segment, but we're not going to play the hypothetical game at this point in time. We're going to focus on what the roster looks like here and now. I think Jamari Johnson, when you look at the current landscape of the tight end room, there's a handful of players that have produced over the past couple seasons, but they haven't necessarily rose to that occasion. I know that it's kind of tough with a passing offense that isn't really designed to be a passing dominant offense as it is now. So we will see how that really fits into that mix. But, you're talking about guys that have transferred out, and then, obviously players moving forward that are on, the roster. Des Melton, Sherman, Martin, so on and so forth. I think Jamari Johnson immediately enters this tight end room and is going to, right away start competing for starting level spots. Now, granted, I think that in years past, you saw Marshawn Ford used in multiple different positions, more as the H-back, out at wide receiver at times, as a traditional tight end. I think you're going to see Jamari Johnson in a similar role, despite it not being the same coaching staff. I like how Jeff Brom, Brian Brom, and company utilize tight end play, how they, utilize it to form mismatches and things of that nature. So another prospect that I think is in line to see a lot of playing time is Stanquan Clark, the 4-star linebacker. I mentioned time and time again how difficult it is, I think, true freshman linebackers to come into the college ranks and immediately be, proficient right away, because there's so much to learn on that side of the football. There's so much to learn as the, so to speak, quarterback of the defense. You're put into a position where there's a lot of responsibility. We've seen all across the country, and this isn't always the case, but even highly rated 4-star, 5-star level linebackers, it takes a couple years to get into the system, to really start to carve out a role for yourself. So, I think that Stanquan Clark, it may be a little bit unfair to put those expectations on him year one that he has to come in and start right away. I'm just thinking that he's going to be put into a position to where he might have to, because of, you lose Monty Montgomery to Mississippi. Momo Sanogo is in the NFL draft. Dorian Jones to Cincinnati. So you lose your starting inside linebackers. You have KJ Cloyd, Jalen Alderman, TJ Quinn, Jackson Hamilton, some younger guys that have played special teams that have been depth pieces over the past couple of years. They have to step up, but at this point in time, I think that this is a position moving forward that Louisville needs to add multiple players at the position to finish out the transfer portal additions because of, trying not to put so much pressure on a true freshman inside linebacker to, compete, or not to compete, but to produce right away. And I'm not saying that he cannot, but I am saying that it's a very tough position, a lot of responsibility that would be put onto him if he were to have to play right away, which I think he's going to have to as things stand right now. So unless multiple players step up. But I think that, Stanquan Clark, Jamari Johnson are the two FlyVille23 recruits that are going to see the most immediate playing time as true freshmen. But let's go player by player. We'll start with the offense. We'll do that here in just a second after we talk about our friends and the title sponsor of the show, FanDuel. This year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, the number one sportsbook in America. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the number one sports book. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. The betting opportunities for Super Bowl 57, including the no sweat first bet, is absolutely fantastic. It's on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So do yourself a favor. Join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Hey, Cardinal fans, thanks again for making Locked On Louisville your first listen every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Everything you need to know about college basketball all in one place. Plus, hear from big-name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All righty, moving on into the second segment of the show. We talked about the players that are in line for the most immediate playing time. Let's go player by player, prospect by prospect. We'll start out with the offensive side of the ball, talking about what the possible expectations might be for each prospect in the FlyVille23 class. Note that if, a certain expectation I declare is, higher or lower than what you're thinking, that doesn't necessarily reflect how good of a prospect that I think they are. What it does reflect is context. What playing time is going to be available? Are they a developmental prospect? Are they, immediately ready to perform and to produce? There's a lot of factors that go into the mix. But let's start out offensive side of the football. Obviously, 15 players overall. Offensive side, offensive lineman Madden Sanker, offensive lineman Joe Crocker, Luke Burgess. You have quarterback Pierce Clarkson. Wide receivers William Fowles and Kataris Hicks, tight end Jamari Johnson, wide receiver Jaleel McClain, and running back Keywan Brown. So we'll start out with Jamari Johnson, since we already talked about Jamari on the first segment. Jamari Johnson, I think you're going to see him compete for starting level snaps right away. If not, a starter, he's going to be a guy that is immediately in the rotation. I think that, a player that's going to be utilized extremely often in the rushing department as a blocker on the outside with his size, but also as a secondary or tertiary receiving option. You have a lot of wide receivers in the mix. So at this point in time, it's kind of hard to say what those numbers could look like, but I definitely think he's going to be a focal point at the tight end position this season. Wide receiver wise, 3 recruits: William Fowles, Kataris Hicks, and Jaleel McClain. I think that William Fowles, the 4-star prospect from Miami, is the main one of the 3 that could be in line for some playing time, with the additions of Jamari Thrash, Kevin Coleman Jr., Jaden Thompson, Jimmy Callaway, so on and so forth. Amari Huggins-Bruce coming back, so on and so forth. Chris Bell, Chance Morrow. There's a lot of players that are competing for a limited amount of targets. So I think that William Fowles is a player that could catch a lot of people by storm, and is a player that could be a guy that is in the two deep at one point in the season. But at this point, I think that he is the main one of the three that is going to be in line for some possible playing time. I think Kataris Hicks, Jaleel McClain, both smaller slot receivers. McClain used a little bit more outside than Hicks, but I think that both of those guys are probably possible redshirt candidates. Nothing wrong there. It's just the amount of playmakers in the wide receiving room already. Jeff Bromley Company did a great job of addressing the wide receiver depth and the starting wide receiver positions in the transfer portal. So I think that William Fowles, if any of the three are going to receive significant snaps in year one, it's probably going to be Fowles. Although I do think that Hicks and McClain are talented. I just think that slot receiver is the spot to where the Cardinals have a lot of they have a lot of traffic in the depth chart. So I think that those two are probably redshirt candidates. I think that William Fowles, being 6'2", 6'3", is a guy that possibly could be used outside. But although it'll kind of just come down to how things look in spring ball, he is an early enrollee, so possibility. Offensive line: Madden, Luke Burgess, and Joe Crocker. The tackle positions for Louisville seem to be right now like you have the starters going into the season. Michael Gonzalez on the left at the tackle position, possibly Renato Brown on the right. I could see Burgess and Crocker both competing for depth spots. I don't think it's, I think it's too early to tell whether or not these guys are redshirt candidates or not. A lot of Louisville's offensive line outside of the center position, left tackle, and soon-to-be guard position with John Paul Flores, a lot of that is unproven depth. So we'll see how things fit into the mix at the left and right tackle positions, respectively. So I think Crocker and Burgess, ceiling and floor. I think floor obviously would be having a redshirt year. Ceiling, I think, is you're going to see one or maybe both of those guys in rotational opportunities, depth pieces if the season goes along and there are some injuries, things of that nature. But ultimately, I think that you are seeing two prospects that are very solid, but might just need a year to get into the depth chart. But who knows? They could definitely be guys that fit into the two deep right away. Running back position: Kewan Brown with the addition of Isaac Guerrero from Wisconsin. Jawar Jordan coming back. You also have Maurice Turner. Right now you have three running backs in the room. It makes you wonder whether or not Kewan Brown is a redshirt candidate. The thing to focus on here, obviously, is that going to be the case with with only 4 scholarship running backs? Jawar Jordan's likely going to be the starter. Isaac Guerrero could be the strength power back. Maurice Turner's definitely going to get some significant workload as well. So I could see Kewan Brown possibly being a guy that plays 4 games but doesn't burn that red shirt. I could see him being a player that is utilized if injury is prevalent. But unless there are injuries, unless guys are just underperforming, I think that Kewan Brown could be a redshirt candidate, assuming that the Cardinals running backs stay healthy. But if they don't, obviously I think Kewan Brown could be put into a position where he has to produce right away. But I think that, Kewan Brown, very talented player from the Atlanta area, just behind some very, very solid running backs at Louisville right now. Forgot to talk about Madden Sanker at the guard positions. Things are kind of hazy at the moment. John Paul Flores, probably one of the projected starters, the transfer from Virginia. A lot of people think Austin Collins is in line to start at the other guard position. I think that Sanker is going to compete for that starting position right away, but at the end of the day, I think that he is going to be a key rotational depth piece at the very least. So that's something to focus on. I think that he is a guy that is going to be relied upon a ton this season, whether that be special teams, whether that be a rotational guy. Obviously, injuries happen in the trenches, so a player that's probably going to be utilized. Maybe not necessarily right away, but I'd say by midseason, a guy that is seeing his name, pop up a lot on the field. So the other player is none other than Pierce Clarkson, with Jack Plummer transferring in from California. Clarkson is probably going to be the backup. I would say he wins the backup spot over Brock Doman. So Jack Plummer going to be the starter. I would think that he is going to be the starter all season unless one of two things happen. Either he underperforms or he gets injured. Could be a Will Stein situation where when Will got hurt, Teddy came in and didn't look back. But Jack Plummer, a little bit more decorated than Will Stein at the collegiate level, knows Brom's system. So obviously being brought in as a grad transfer to start for 1 year, being the bridge quarterback for Pierce Clarkson. So I could see Clarkson playing, in a couple of games, especially the blowouts, to maybe maintain that red shirt, but also get some solid collegiate snaps as well. But I think that he is a guy that is just going to be waiting for his turn, along with Kewan Brown, Joe Crocker, Madden Sanker, Kataris Hicks, Luke Burgess, William Fowles, and Joel McClain. So at this point, let's now transition over into the defensive side of the ball. Not as many as the offensive side, but still a good amount of players. Before we do that, I want to say thank you all again for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, I know that the schedule is inconsistent and very inconvenient. I do apologize, but I'm going to do my best to continue to churn out episodes in a timely manner. So just keep that in mind as we go throughout February. All right, heading into the final segment of the show now, talking about the expectations for each FlyVille23 prospect on the defensive side of the football. There are a couple: edge rusher Adonijah Green, linebacker Stanquan Clark, cornerback Aaron Williams, defensive lineman William Spencer, Micah Carter, and Sadiq Clements. So we talked about Stanquan Clark in the first segment. I think he's going to be a guy that for some reason, if Louisville goes out and goes and gets a couple linebackers, or guys like Alderman and Cloyd or Quinn, Hamilton, so on and so forth, they rise to the occasion to where Clark is not a starter. I think he's going to be a key depth piece. We're going to have to rely on him a ton this year in the middle of the Cardinals' defense, in the middle of that 4-2-5 base package defense. So I think that Stanquan Clark, like I said, going to be probably in line for the most immediate playing time for the Cardinals from the FlyVille23 class, defensively speaking. Adonijah Green, the highest ranked recruit according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, top 200 prospect, 4-star defensive end / edge rusher from the state of Georgia. A guy that I mentioned not many people are talking about enough as it pertains to the highest ceiling at Louisville. He's a victim of a very crowded depth chart, but he's a very talented player. Kind of gives me Popeye Williams vibes. Very highly rated guy, but he's behind guys like Yasir Abdullah, Ashton Gelati, Yaya Diaby. Well, you look for Adonijah Green, and he's behind Ashton Gelati, Stephen Herron, possibly Popeye Williams. So we'll see what position he projects to, if he's going to be more of an outside linebacker or if he's going to be used as a traditional defensive end. So I think that he's a guy that I think floor and ceiling is he's a starting level caliber player. And then the floor is, I think that he is a rotational piece, a guy that could be in the line for a Popeye Williams level of production, to where it's year one not much, but going into year twos where you really look at things and think, okay, this could be a possible breakout level player. So I think it's just a matter of buying time if you are Adonijah Green, but a very talented prospect, so it wouldn't surprise me if he was able to crack into the 2 deep. Moving right on along, cornerback Aaron Williams. This is a very interesting situation. Top 200 prospect from St. John Bosco down in California. Suffered a torn ACL in his senior season, played on it, and was able to play at a high level, which is wild. But As my understanding goes, having surgery, going to have to recover. I'm not sure what his availability is going to be like in the fall. You would have to assume that if he's going to be ready for the season, it's that he's going to be cleared in fall camp. So he'll have to revamp up to football level play. So I don't necessarily know how much he's going to perform this season. It could be a redshirt season for Aaron Williams, but who knows? Maybe recovery is not that long if he's having to play on it. Then again, I'm just not sure. So at the end of the day, we'll see how that goes. But I think Aaron Williams is going to be a guy that if he does play, it's going to be at the end of the season. And at that point, you'll have to wonder, is it worth burning that medical red shirt or burning that red shirt? So a question and bridge that we'll have to cross when we get there. The three defensive line prospects, William Spencer, Micah Carter, and Sadiq Clemens, all inside of the top 700. Micah Carter and William Spencer, Woo Spencer, as he's known, in the 24/7 sports rankings currently, all are outside of the top 500. Carter and Spencer, both from the Louisville area, just within 10 spots of the top 500. I think all three of these prospects on the interior, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not that they are utilized as nose tackles, true defensive tackles on the interior, or if they go to the outside as defensive ends. I think that that's going to be the thing that clarifies what the opportunity is going to be like there. I think that there's more opportunity on the interior, despite, I think that Jermaine Loway's back. I need to get some clarification on that. I'm just really not sure. But Des Tell is back, Jared Dawson. So there's more opportunity in the interior of the defensive line. Interior, I think that all three are players with solid physical tools. They have a lot of talent, but all three are going to need to continue to develop. So I think that at the very best, I think that they're rotational players. Possible redshirt candidates, really just kind of depending on if Jep Brom and company add to the line via the portal, or if they go with what they have now. Like I said, they have multiple spots still left in terms of scholarships open. So I think that this is a interesting, debate, because it's kind of an interesting defensive line department. We don't really know how the interior is going to look. So I think that all three of these players have a very, very solid future, all three from the state of Kentucky. I think that, if there's going to be one that's going to see the opportunity to play right away, it's probably Woo Spencer, and then probably Micah Carter. I think that Sadiq Clemens is probably the top option of the three to be a redshirt candidate, but I think all three could possibly be redshirt candidates. But at the end of the day, I think that if the ceiling is met, I think that their best case scenario is that they're all three, solid rotational pieces, but that is still yet to be seen. So that's going to wrap up this episode of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here very soon.